All right. Welcome to Writer Talks. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and here at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing, I get to interview the winners of our monthly contest who get published in our international anthologies of amazing writers. Well, guess what? You are in for such a huge treat right now because we have three amazing winning writers from around the world. Let me introduce, and we're going to dive into a whole lot of information that can help you as a writer, become a better writer and just be creative, believe in yourself, and really make some magic happen with those words that come out of your fingertips. So I want to start all the way down under where we have Warren Paul Glover. He is an award-winning actor, screenwriter, short story writer, poet, and all-around talented person. So welcome, Warren.
Hi,
Let's come. Yes. Let's come back to the United States, to Connecticut, where we have Kendall Klym, who is a retired dancer turned writer, also journalist, and amazing creative visionary. So welcome, Kendall.
thank you.
You're welcome. And then let's go to Manitoba, Canada, where we have Richard Zarick, who is writing all kinds of wonderful things, including a novel. And he is inspired by all of the wonderful superheroes that you see on the wall behind him. So welcome, Richard.
Hello.
So we're going to do sort of a round robin here, and I'll ask a question and each of you can answer. And we just had a fascinating talk about what keeps you believing in yourself as a writer. So let's start with Richard and just share with the writers out there what can help you believe in yourself, even when you get rejection letters, even when it feels like you're in a vacuum or a void and nobody's reading or looking or listening or caring.
I think for me, it's just something I have to do all the time. I have to keep writing. I've mentioned before that it's like a calling. It's, a lot of times I'll be walking somewhere, even driving, and then I'm thinking, oh, how would I write this? How would I describe that in a story? Or that's how you get inspiration for a story or a character or something like that. So I've always been interested in the power of the word, and it's been something that's been with me for a long time now.
I love it. I love it. So it's a calling. It's like, who cares what anybody says? I must do this.
That's
Love
right.
that so much because it comes from within, and that's the most authentic mission you can have. That's awesome. All right, Kendall, what keeps you believing in yourself as a writer that can help other people who are trying to write?
Well, I think that keeping track of what I'm doing, looking at all the rejections and realizing that my skin is growing thicker, keeping track of them and letting go of any sort of doubts as a result of, I think, putting aside some of my writing, coming back to it, sharing it with others, and realizing that for every rejection, and this is my sort of little recipe, for every rejection I get, if I still feel that the story is worthwhile and doesn't need revision, what I do is I submit twice so that I'm always one ahead and not one behind.
Oh, nice. Excellent. That's a great strategy. Thank you. And then Warren, what keeps you believing in yourself, even when it seems the world isn't?
Well, Richard said it's a calling. I mean, it's like an itch that you can't satisfactorily scratch being a writer. Yeah, it's always there under the skin. And you write because you feel like you have something to say, something to share about the world, some insight. Whether you want to make people laugh, make people cry. I mean, there's lots of different motivations, but why you may want to write. You got to celebrate the little wins. If you get a poem published or a short story published, then I think you should like really appreciate that. That's, yes, there is a connection, with the reader there. And just don't get discouraged. Yes, you have to grow a thick skin, but I find success in terms of getting a story published where it might have been rejected as a poem, it might have been rejected as a short story, but I've turned it into a short play, and it's made it on a stage, and it's been performed in front of an audience. So you can always experiment with form. Just because you wrote a particular piece as a short story, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that's the best form for that particular tale. It might be the form that immediately sprung to mind, and it was the way you got it out there. But if you find that it's not getting picked up, and try it in a different format.
Love it.
Perseverance is key, I think. You're going to believe in yourself. You have got something to say. You're a unique individual. Your insight, your perspective, nobody else has, because nobody else has experienced the same things in exactly the same way that you have. And so you have an interesting take on life, and that's what we're all interested in projecting and sharing, and hopefully connecting with people in some way.
I love that. Love that. So showcasing writers, celebrating writers, that's our mission here at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. And that's why we started our monthly contest, because back in the day before the internet, Catherine would mail off submissions to magazines and got zillions of rejections. And she said, if I'm ever in a position to showcase writers, I'm going to do it. So when we started our company almost 6 years ago, she said, we're going to have a monthly contest and we are going to showcase our writers. And now we publish you in our anthologies. And all your stories are at twosisterswriting.com/winning stories. So we celebrate you so much. We just absolutely love you. And we are excited that you're part of our community and we get to know you. And I love this show because we get to know you. So let's let the viewers get to know you. So I want to go around and each of you, please talk about what's your latest and greatest creation, tell people where to find it, and just let this be your promotional celebration moment about what your greatest accomplishment is and where you want people to go right now to read your work. So let's start with Richard in Manitoba, Canada.
All right. Well, I guess my biggest accomplishment so far was writing and getting a historical fiction novel published called Hiding Scars. I happen to have a copy of it right over here. Okay,
awesome. I love that cover.
Yeah, as I said, it's a historical fiction novel. It takes place between 1913 and 1919 in Winnipeg at a time when there's a lot of things going on in the world. We actually had that original pandemic called the Spanish flu way back when, and we had World War I, and we had a recession and prohibition and all sorts of things that were happening. So it basically tells a tale of two characters that meet, but the relationship could only go so far because of class differences. It is available on Amazon, so you can find it through Amazon or any of the better bookstores that are out there.
I love it. And will you talk about your winning story for Two Sisters, please?
The story that I wrote was I don't know how quite to describe it. It was for one of your romance contests, and it's called Same Time Tomorrow, and it's about an elderly gentleman who every day meets a woman about his age that he went to school with and was enamored by her. And he just never had the gumption to go any further. Maybe he felt that she was above him to a certain extent. And now there's been a lot of water under the bridge, and there's been some regret, and a lot of other things that older people have to go through, such as health issues or health problems. And I don't know if I want to give the ending away, but however, it does. There is a bit of a twist ending to it, and I'm not sure if he finds what he wants. But at the end of the day, every day is another new day of love for him, basically.
I love it, love it, love it, love it. So people, you viewers, you can all watch it at twosisterswriting.com/winning stories. Okay. Thank you, Richard. That's awesome. I wish you the absolute best in everything that you're doing. Okay, Kendall, what would you like people to know about you and your greatest writing?
Well, I have a collection of dance stories called Step Lightly, and that you can find on Amazon as well as Livingston Press. And that is 15 stories that define and redefine what it means to dance. And yes, I incorporate ballet, hula, folk dance, you name it. It is ballet heavy because that was my area of expertise. I guess it still is. But I look at the concept of dancing as something that we all do, whether it's a conversation, making love, driving down the road, flying in a plane, whatever it may be, and how movement is something that it exists in our brain, and how we interact with others is based on some type of movement. And so I think that my goal with the collection is my audience. I basically said, well, people who are not necessarily interested in dance. This is my audience. People who are interested in human relationships and nuances and something unusual that might happen as a result of movement. And so the stories are, I'm a formalist writer, so I have one that is an incantation, which brings back Anna Pavlova through a dessert called the pavlova, which was first created in New Zealand and then Australia. And then so the dancer actually comes back to life, and she has certain good and bad qualities and is sort of this magical person who dances with my male protagonist who falls in love with her. But you know, what happens when you fall in love with a ghost? So, I mean, I feel that, and I'm not going to tell you, so you have to read it. So it's the idea that, you know, dance is everywhere, and it can be extremely interesting, including ballet, because Pavlova was a ballerina. And so I think that's one of the goals I have with that. Now, my story for Two Sisters was diary in the pandemic. And I create a virus called Noroko, switch around Corona, and it becomes Noroko. And it's very similar. And so this man is, he ends up becoming ill, not with the virus, but with something else, and needs to deal with telemedicine for the first time, and ends up falling in love with one of the receptionists at the telemedicine center, and ends up also realizing that he had been in love with a woman who took advantage of him and whom he needed to sort of let go in his life. So it's about shedding as well as acquiring and discovering who we are in really negative, isolating situations, connecting with other people.
Wow. Wow, that's deep. Okay, where can people find your first project that you mentioned?
Livingston Press
Okay.
is really where you can get the cheapest versions of it, but it's also, you can look it up on Amazon.
Okay. Beautiful.
And the hardcovers are no longer in print, so those are going to be the most expensive. Just get a soft cover.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I love how there's the love theme going on. It's like a constant theme. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Warren, what would you like people to look at right now that you're working on? And also please talk about your Two Sisters winning story.
Well, what I'm working on at the moment, people can't really read because it's a screenplay, which are not really, it's not meant to be read by the general public. It's a blueprint for a film. But I write screenplays, I write stage plays, I write short stories, and I write poetry too. So in February, my debut poetry collection, Fashionably Late, published by Ginindara Press here in Australia. People outside Australia, the only way you can get a copy of that is to write to me, and I could source you one. But if you Google me, Warren Paul Glover, you'll find examples of my poetry, my short stories. You might find a couple of videos of stage plays that have been performed here in Sydney. So you'll definitely find something if you Google my name.
Yes.
I write in lots of different formats, so it's quite difficult. I mean, one thing I'm particularly proud of, I had a stage play produced in off Broadway in New York in 2016, and it was so successful. It was nominated for 3 theatre awards. It didn't win, but it got nominated, including for the best playwright. And it was so successful.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. Pretty proud of that. And in terms of my short stories, there were a couple published.
You have a couple winning pieces with us. So.
By two sisters. Yeah, was it Escaping for Venus? Escaping to Venus is it's a story about a father and a daughter, but it revolves around mental illness. And my other story, published by two sisters, Enough, is a domestic violence story.
Very, very powerful content, very beautifully executed, all three of you. So I'm so proud that you're part of our community. And please, everybody who's watching, please Google these amazing writers so you can learn from them. And right now, I want to explore a topic for writers who might be contemplating, do I need to get a degree in writing? Do I need an MFA or not? Or do I just start writing? Let's go around. I want to know from all of you, what's best? Do you just start writing and get that experience? Or should you get an MFA, and does it really help you? So let's start with Warren.
Just start writing.
Real simple.
If you've got a story inside you, then write and get it out there.
I love it.
Sure. You could do courses. I mean, I did some short courses in writing poetry and fiction. I've done a novel writing course. I haven't yet completed a novel, and I think that's going to be my main goal for 2022.
Oh, great.
I think the best way to learn is by doing it. I think you can learn about the 3-act structure and based off a writing book and you read about characterization and all that sort of stuff. But the best way is to just get it done and write, and find your rhythm. Find the way that you write, and just keep working on your craft.
Love it. Okay, thank you, Kendall.
Okay, well, I am biased to the extent that I'm an educator and I've taught on the undergraduate level. That's my profession, is teaching creative writing, particularly fiction, though I've taught poetry and nonfiction as well. But my answer is not going to be yes, the opposite of the one you just heard. I'm going to say it really depends on the individual. MFA programs, because I have the MFA and the PhD, and I mean, I sold all of my possessions to do a PhD in creative writing at the University of Wales, Aberystwyth. And so, obviously, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. So in that sense, I can say you'll know. If you get to that point, I think you will know whether it's for you or not before you go into it. But for some people, I think it really just, you need to do your research. It could be a local writing group. Yes, no matter what, you should be writing. just right. So I agree with the idea of maybe not, maybe you should just write. But sometimes I think if you're unhappy with where you're going, perhaps you need some guidance. Will that guidance, you might hire a writing coach. Let's see, do we know any? So for example, here we are, Elizabeth Ann Atkins. You might become a part of a library and go listen to other writers, read their work, find out how they became successful. And so definitely read. The first thing to do, actually, even before you write, is to read. But I think that it's different for everyone. And when I have writing students, I treat them very individually, because what I say to one student may not be what I say to the next one who's writing a very similar piece, because they are different people with different goals. And so research your program, research the people you're going to work with, possibly, and then make your decision.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, Richard, what are your thoughts?
I agree with both Warren and Kendall. They made excellent points. And I think it's a little bit of both, really. You have to start somewhere. You're going to start writing, and you're going to skin your knees a lot, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And whatever you write, it's going to be really bad at first, probably. There are some prodigies out there where the second that they put pen to paper, it's eloquent and perfect, but probably not. And so you need to do that a few times, and then it's probably a good idea to take a little bit of training. And what I mean by that is attending workshops and conferences, learn how to write dialogue. As Kendall said, it's good to read things that you like reading. What genre are you going to be concentrating on? Read that genre, learn all about it. You want to do young adult, better read young adult, right? So you have to know what you're going to be writing to do the writing, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes as you go, and you only get better by learning and educating yourself. It doesn't have to be through a formal degree. That's probably the best way, but you have to start somewhere. I think it was mentioned a writing group. I'm part of a writing group, and it's fabulous. It's helped me help get my book published, certainly. So yeah, you have to start writing. Just go ahead and do it, and then as you go, you're gonna learn the tricks of the trade. Of here, I do this. I shouldn't be switching point of view every paragraph, maybe. Things like that. Where a beginning writer, I did that. That's how you learn, right? So
right.
So there you go.
Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So as a journalist, my degree, I have a master's in journalism from Columbia, and you don't really need that, because what's proof and what gets you jobs is your clips, your newspaper articles that you've written, as proof that you have the talent. So I didn't need it. I just wanted to live in New York City. So as a student early on, but the technical training that I did get in class has been tremendously helpful for my writing career in all genres. So for me, it's been both, but it wasn't necessary. It was very expensive, but it was worth it, because the enrichment of the program of being in New York City with that as my classroom laboratory was just immeasurably valuable. So, going to a program, meeting other people, learning from professors, being in another city or state or even country can be enriching to you as a writer as well, because our lives are the fodder for our creativity and our general knowledge base of people, places, and things. So it's all good. So we have a little bit more time left, and I can't even tell you how excited I am that all three of you are here, because I've interviewed each of you individually on Writer Talks, which has been awesome. But to have all three of you here is just such a gift. So thank you for your time and attention tonight. So I want to know your number one tip that you like to share with other writers. that can be about time management or coming up with ideas, organizing, whatever is your greatest tip, probably your most difficult lesson learned yourself that you'd like to share with all the writers who are watching right now. Let's start with Warren. Or we can come back to
that's not that. I mean, that's the hard one. Keep a notebook, carry a notebook around with you, write down ideas. It's snatches of dialogue that you overhear, because I can guarantee it's not going to be wasted. Something will spark an idea, and you don't know what that idea is going to take you. It could take you into a poem, it could take you into a short story, it could take you to a stage play, it could take you to a screenplay, the development of a movie. Who knows? But be open to experimentation, and your idea, if you find out it's not working as a short story, maybe you don't have the technical skill yet, then try and pare it right down and write a poem about it instead. So don't be afraid of experimenting in different forms.
I love it. That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Warren. All right, Kendall.
Well, I've said this before, and this really is my number one. You're never off duty, that you're always writing, meaning you could be having a dream, that you could be lying in the bathtub, whatever it may be, that this is whatever you're experiencing, experience it fully and consider it as fodder for your writing. So then when you realize that, it's not as if you're overworked, you relish every experience in life, including some negative ones, because then you can say, oh, well, maybe I can use that. So that it gives you a positive outlook, not only on your writing and the possibilities, but on your whole life.
Wow, we're never off duty. Woohoo! That's a lot of pressure, but it's actually a gift.
Well, just staring out the window counts as work as a writer, doesn't it?
Yes, I love it. I love it. So that's so cool, because when you have a negative emotion or a really intense positive one, it's like, how do I wrap some words around this moment? I love doing that. Like, how do you describe love? How do you describe the sensory extravaganza of life, whether it's touching a soft surface, tasting something really delicious, being with your partner in a romantic tryst? How do you describe that in words? The average person cannot do that. And I just love that challenge. All right, excellent. So, Richard, what's your greatest tip?
Well, I guess a lot of it really depends, how serious are you? And if you want to be a serious writer, you have to devote time to it. So I think it's important that you set aside time every single day to do something related to your craft, whether it's writing or editing or researching or being part of a writing group or whatever it may be. You have to devote some time to it. Set quotas. Let's say you're working on a short story or a longer piece, 500 words a day. 600 words a day, 1,000, whatever it is, and stick to it. And if you don't do it one day, do double the next day. That's what I do. Or if you're planning a trip somewhere where you're not going to be able to write, then I bank time. I say, well, you know what, I'm going to do 2 or 3 hours today, so maybe I can take a bit of a writing holiday while I'm going visiting friends or doing something else. So I think it's important to take it seriously, devote time to it, and switch gears. So it's supposed to be fun, kind of. So you don't have to be writing all the time. You could be editing. Maybe you like doing that, or I think today's going to be a research day. I feel we're kind of researchy today. That's okay too, but you have to do something.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Oh, what great guidance for all of you. Wow. Okay, so here's where we're going to close. I want to know, what is the most euphoric thing about writing, like that moment where you're just in the groove, in the zone, and what does that feel like, and how does it happen for you? Let's start with Kendall.
Well, for me, I think it comes after publication, so that I can relive the experience of working on a particular section, whether it's just a scene or it could be a single description, it could be a metaphor. And when it happens, because I when I do readings, I do performative readings. And so for Step Lightly, I incorporated dance while reading from my book. And so it's actually the euphoria comes through the movement and sounds that I experience when reading my work. Now, I do that throughout, whether I'm on draft 1 of a story or 52, and I've just, run out of paper that I've printed out and have to run to Staples to get more and feel bad about all the trees that died. It could be, whenever, but it's the idea of experiencing it fully with my entire body through reading it out loud and living the lives of the characters I create.
Wow. Wow. I was not expecting that answer. That's awesome. All right, Richard, take us to that euphoric moment in writing for you.
I think it's after something is published and someone you don't know at all comes to you and says, you know what, the piece that you wrote really meant a lot to me and it really moved me. And I just want you to know that. Wow. When someone does that.
Wow.
So that to me demonstrates that what I did actually meant something and moved someone and, made a difference, I guess you could say.
Wow. That's awesome. That's great. That's great. Wow. Okay. And then Warren, can you take us to that euphoric moment for you for writing?
It's during the actual process. Well, I think it's when the writing seems so smooth. Sometimes the process is, it's a bit more jagged, a bit stop-start, while you're really trying to think, how should I express this? But when you're really in the groove and it's plain sailing and the time goes quickly and you just know that it's working, and you're getting lost in the story yourself and you're writing it, and that's a really sweet moment for me. But post-writing, I think my most euphoric moment after a completed project, it was a stage play I wrote called Falling for Harry, which is a dark romantic comedy. It's about a suicidal Hare Krishna that falls in love with a fellow suicidal on a bridge, because they're both on the bridge because they both throw themselves off, but they both fall in love instead. But there's a twist at the end, as there usually is in my stuff. And I was sat in the sort of front row during this performance, and the audience's laughter cascading over my shoulders. That was a euphoric moment, because it was meant to be a comedy and people were crying, laughing. It was brilliant.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh.
You can find a performance on YouTube if you Google it.
Oh, good. Okay. Everybody, you can watch the laughter cascading over his shoulders. Great verb. Awesome. Thank you. So my euphoric moment is an out-of-body experience where I'm sitting there writing and suddenly I realize I'm completely gone. Like I'm not in touch with my physical being. My fingers are moving on the keyboard, but I'm just over here, up here, and it's just flowing out, like magically downloading through me like a channel. It's such a great feeling. And I'm like, wow, I just want to stay right here. It's awesome. So I think writing is a very spiritual, mystical experience, because these ideas that flow and filter through us, and then we express them, and then we touch people like the three of you just described, is just so powerful. So we're all very fortunate to have this gift, this talent, this drive, this calling. And so I'm so grateful to all of you for sharing your wisdom tonight. Is there anything that you talented gentlemen would like to share in addition to what you've already said? to all the writers out there to encourage them?
Well, yes. So if you're writing stories, get to know your characters and make friends with them. I think writing can be a very lonely experience at times, but you're creating characters, and let them also be created as they're going. In other words, you can't manipulate them too much, but as you interact with it, think about them in situations that are not the actual story that you're writing. So that's kind of the iceberg theory there. But get to know them, make friends with your characters.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Last words?
As an extension of that, I mean, I'd say, I'd let your characters lead you by the hand into places that you wouldn't have thought they'd go to. You might have an idea in your head of where your story's going, but your characters might have other ideas. And when I first heard that, I thought, how is that possible? Because the character's not real. But you'll be surprised. If you trust your writing and trust your characters, they will lead you by the hand into some corner of your imagination that you didn't think they had the key to, and you can be very pleasantly surprised by the results. Trust your characters.
Nice.
And I'll take it to the next level. I think you also have to hate your characters a little bit. You have to let them get punched in the face. They have to go through some hard times, and
throw rocks at them.
Sometimes I know I have a tendency of, well, this is the main character. Oh, only the good things are good. No, bad things have to happen sometimes in order for them to see the light, or for redemption, or whatever it could be. Sometimes you have to run them through a lot of bad before the good comes out.
Well, that's what friendship is all about. If you're going to stick by your friends, both the good and bad is going to be there. So.
All right. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard, Kendall, and Warren, for joining us here tonight on Writer Talks. Thank you, all of you, for watching these talented men who write amazing stories in multiple genres that you need to check out. So please Google them all. Go to twosisterswriting.com and read their stories under Winning Stories. And I guarantee you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to think, and you're going to feel very inspired to continue to write yourself. So thank you for joining us. Please give us a thumbs up. Drop any comments you might have or questions for any of the writers here today. Please subscribe to the channel, and please visit twosisterswriting.com and submit your short story. We have a number of contests going on right now where you can enter and be a guest on Writer Talks if you win and get published in our international anthologies. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins. I'm so grateful that you joined us every night, Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time here on Writer Talk. So we will see you next week, and I wish you happy writing.